Are you looking for a compact SUV, one that you may want to take off-road every once in a while, and perhaps you need 2 additional seats for your kids? The answer to all your questions may be the new Land Rover Discovery Sport. In the spring of 2014, Land Rover presented the Discovery Vision concept, which was the indication of a new Discovery sub-brand. The same year, in autumn, during the Paris Motor Show, Land Rover launched the Discovery Sport, which sort of replaces the Freelander and slots below the Discovery we all know. In terms of size, Land Rover Discovery Sport is similar to Bmw X3, and that's not the only similarity, so there are going to be more comparisons. Land Rover claims the boot volume from the floor to the roof is 981 liters. Up to the windows it is about 500 liters less. Bmw X3 has a bigger boot up to the windows, but with the seats folded, Land Rover wins. This test example also comes with an optional third row of seats. If you choose this option, you cannot have a full-size spare, only an optional space saver. And here I just have a repair kit. By the way, when opening the third row of seats, I have to get rid of the boot cover somewhere, and there's just no place for it. There's a good reason why Land Rover calls this a 5+2 car. So, these 2 seats are for emergency use only, preferably by the kids. And access, as you can see, is quite challenging. The opening is rather small. And yeah, once I close this, there isn't much space left, but the kids might be comfortable here, partially thanks to additional air vent. There is also a USB socket and a 12-volt socket as well, so they can charge their stuff and play their Nintendos or Smart Boys or whatever it is these days that the kids play. And now, if you don't mind, I shall crawl out of here, and I think I'm stuck, so do excuse me. If you're planning to torture someone in the third row, you're not left with much legroom in the second row either. But once these seats go back, legroom is more than generous. And so is the headroom. In the middle there are AC vents, more USB sockets and a 12-volt one as well. There are also cup holders and some storage in the armrest. The dashboard is simple and elegant. I like the new infotainment system, which is light years ahead of what the old Land and Range Rovers have. Buttons on both sides of the screen are a bit too far and are a bit too small, especially if I were to look for them on a bumpy road. There is a lot of storage, even an optional cubby under the cup holders, and more USB and 12-volt sockets under the armrest. And there's also a big glove box. This car comes with a 9-speed automatic that you control with a knob, like in a Jaguar. Time for another BMW comparison. On the road, the Land Rover Discovery Sport is almost as good to drive as a BMW X3, and that is a compliment. The car is fast, the engine is responsive, and the automatic gearbox shifts cogs really fast, even in eco mode. Speaking of the engine, here under the bonnet I have a 2-litre 240 horsepower engine. Land Rover promises a sprint from 0 to 100 km per hour will take just above 8 seconds. Land Rover also promises this car will do about 8.5 litres per 100 km in the combined cycle, but I think this figure is a bit optimistic. The best I got was 12.5, and that's in combined cycle, and that's still about 2 litres above what the car should do in the urban cycle. In the urban cycle, be prepared for 13-14 litres per 100 kilometers. Which leads us to another comparison to the BMW X3. With a 2-litre 240 horsepower engine, it is faster and, at least on paper, it is more economical. Any reservations I have about the handling are to do with the steering. This car is supposed to have some off-road abilities, so the steering is not as direct as in the more road-focused competitors. The seats are comfortable, but offer poor lateral support, and well, This, together with the steering, the slightly slow steering, it takes the sport out of the Discovery. So what about the Discovery bit? Land Rovers these days come with a terrain response system. In this car it is discreetly tucked away here at the bottom of the center console. Basically what happens is you press a button and you decide what sort of terrain you're driving on, and the system should sort out everything for you. Well, not everything, as I found out rather quickly.
21 centimeters ground clearance, just like in a BMW X3, turned out to be insufficient, so I had the car on its belly before I even reached the mud pit I wanted to tackle. I had to look for a farmer with a tractor. I have no doubt the Discovery Sport can do some wicked stuff, but in real life I rarely drive across a Land Rover obstacle course or along a route approved by the Land Rover team. Sometimes I'll just go 2 meters too far, and then it doesn't matter whether I'm driving a Land Rover, a Dacia or a BMW. Although, out of these three, Dacia is most likely to have some sort of off-road tires. So don't even think for a moment that the Discovery Sport will compensate for your lack of off-road skills. You'll probably go in deeper, and then you'll have to walk back further looking for a tractor.
But in everyday life, the Discovery Sport gives you a sense of security, and it's not just a sense of security. The car was awarded a 5-star Euro NCAP rating. This example comes with things like lane assist, which vibrates gently on the steering wheel, but it is somewhat too aggressive, so I switched it off. The interior is reasonably well sound insulated and visibility is pretty good. And just in case, you also get a blind spot monitoring system. And there is even a pedestrian airbag under the bonnet, which I hope I'll never have to use. Here, let's talk about the price. A similarly spec'd BMW X3 with a comparable engine will probably be a bit more expensive, but an xDrive 20i still offers better performance than the 240 horsepower Discovery Sport, and with extra kit should cost about the same. The only real difference is the third row of seats, which none of the premium competitors offer. I understand for some buyers that may be the deciding factor. And me? I just like the way the Discovery Sport looks and feels, even if Discovery and Sport are more for the brochure. Watch more of my reviews and subscribe to my channel. New episodes every Friday. Comment, rate and share my videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, hopefully when the weather is slightly better.